The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, and I'm thrilled to be here because I get to be with you. And yes, you, my audience, you are the bane and the backbone of this show, because without you, the show would not be possible. So keep that kind of circle going. And if you have a story, do share with us, because I love hearing the kind of circle stories going. It's about taking 1 hour of your time and spending it as you want throughout the month, whether it's 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and doing a kind act and helping someone with no strings attached. And also, I want to thank you for getting our books. 2 of my favorite ones, I know I've written several, but 2 of my favorite ones are The Entrepreneur's Guide and An Expert to Influencer. I can definitely tell you, based on the comments back and the reviews back from our readers, they will change your life. Not only that, partial profits from our books go to other entrepreneurs, because I believe entrepreneurs are a special breed. And they're a unique species that brings so much growth and closes the gaps between different human beings. So partial profits go to kiva.org. So thank you for those who have got a copy. And if you have not, please share the word. We keep the entrepreneurship growing. So let's bring in our guest. Welcome, Rose.
Hi, Divya. So happy to be here. So honored. And thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to share my journey and inspire others.
Yes, you said that beautifully, inspire others, because at the end of the day, it's all about impacting others. Without the impact, we as entrepreneurs would not be able to thrive, because at the core of it, most of the entrepreneurs have the why of impacting other people. So I want us to take it a little bit back. Do you have any moment or a person in your childhood that left a positive mark on you?
Going back to my childhood, I have a special teacher that inspired me, and she was my teacher for 5 years, and just her positivity and her encouragement were so infectious that I decided I wanted to be a teacher just from her example. And I have been a teacher several times, and I think of her when I am teaching and inspiring young kids, because I want to be that impact and I want to be that role model for any kid that I am teaching, or my own children.
That is very insightful, because there's so many teachers, and our teachers don't get paid as much, which is, I am not going to go into that, because I believe, teachers are shaping leaders of tomorrow. And I will tell you, talking about kids and all that, when I used to be just a volunteer and all that, and I would see that so many teachers would spend their own money to bring in classroom day-to-day things that the kids needed. And of course, as part of being the moms group, we would make sure that, we were bringing in just the classroom supplies and that they were not spending money out of their pockets. So as you continued growing up, what were your interests? Because since you're an entrepreneur, I'm assuming you didn't become a teacher.
Art was actually one of my favorite interests and hobbies. And I recently dove back into art, and I've found a very amazing parallel with art and being an entrepreneur. And the foundation of being an artist is practicing the skill, and just practice and practice and practice. So my teacher, my mom has been an artist for over 50 years, but I've been hosting twice a year an art workshop with oil painting from doing portraits. And my teacher is just amazing. And so just watching over the 4 days, by the end, we have a portrait, but it's all about how we started and building the strong foundation, and not actually getting into the fun and like doing the jewelry or doing the details, which in the world of being an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. We want to get into making all the graphics and doing all the websites and doing all the things. And really the most important is the foundation, which is the skills that we're bringing, who we are, and how we can impact and serve other people. And that's really the foundation that needs to be worked on before we even go out and present what we have to offer and serve to others.
Very powerful. So you mentioned that art is parallel to entrepreneurship. So you were into art. Tell us your transition from being an artist into becoming an entrepreneur.
Well, watching my mom be an artist, as an artist my whole life, her way of doing art was more of a meditation. So she would paint for 20 years, one painting, and it's amazing. I mean, it's a masterpiece. But for me, I was very impatient as a young kid. So I did the art and I had fun, but I quickly gave up when I saw, how long it would take her to do a masterpiece. So I came back to that, that journey with my teacher that does a masterpiece in one weekend. But how I got to an entrepreneurship is that my mom was a single mother of twins. And if I wanted to buy the fun things and have the fun things, I needed to start making money. So I started at 9 years old, being a babysitter and all the things. Then at 11, I was making $4.50 an hour, working for a woman who's still very important to me to this day. And she became my first business partner. And she taught me everything, how to start a business and how to just go out there and do it. And she was a big inspiration to me, and she still is today. She's still out there being an entrepreneur, and she's an amazing cook. She's an amazing entrepreneur. She's an amazing mother. And so that really inspired me that I could start things, that I didn't need to work for someone else and help them build their dreams, that I could work on my own businesses.
So you mentioned that you started at an early age of 9. So it sounds like the seed of entrepreneurship was planted in your heart a long time back, and it has taken root and blossomed into a tree, which is fantastic. So tell us, what kind of business do you run?
So this journey of being a coach is actually my 12th business that I've opened up and launched. I've done everything. I had a store in Santa Barbara, California for 8 years, which was so much fun because it was like being a kid at Christmas every day. I would get new toys and new games that I could share with all the children and teach all the grandparents what all the things were. And I've done a lot of smaller businesses for Christmas season or seasonal businesses. I would pitch and sell home and garden products. So I learned a lot from that. And then I would find my own products. I've done online businesses. I've done, I've just tried it all.
Oh, do you have a favorite out of the businesses that you have run?
Definitely the toy store. Just being able to see people and see the faces of the kids every day, their excitement coming into and walking into a toy store. And during that time, it was actually really sad because that was the time where the Toys R Us is closed down. And I actually had one in the mall, the same mall that I was in, that was a little smaller than my store. And so the manager, actually, I ended up hiring her for my store. And, just that feeling of when you're a kid and you can walk in a toy store and just see all the games and toys. I loved providing that experience. And also, we had a whole book corner. So kind of like a library, kids came in and we had story time and just, connection with them. So that really brought me a lot of joy to be there, especially, in the Christmas season with the Christmas spirit, and all year round. It was really a great, great honor to be there.
Sounds like so much fun, and I can see the passion just kind of exuding out of your very being and how you were there. So that said, with every business, there comes ups and downs, those ebbs and flows. So did you experience those ebbs and flows, and what did you learn from them?
Oh, absolutely. I am a recovering workaholic. And so I would spend all night rearranging my toys and the books and the puzzles. And it would be 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, oh, I guess I got to go to Starbucks to get a coffee to keep going. So I have always had that tendency to go to burnout. So I've actually ended up in the hospital 4 times from burnout. And so that each time was supposed to be the last lesson, but last was really my final straw. But yeah, I learned that from just being in business, is that when you have so many hats, that to learn how to delegate those to other people instead of trying to do everything yourself, even if you feel it better, faster. It's always important to respect yourself and to delegate to others.
And that is so true, because I've been on the brink of burnout a few times myself. And then as I kept on growing my team, I've realized that having a team by your side, because being an ex-corporate, we used to be surrounded by teams. We had a family. And then when you are an entrepreneur, as you mentioned, you're wearing so many different hats that sometimes you feel isolated and alone. So rather than doing the journey just yourself, building that team around you, and then that can be, trading, bartering. It doesn't just have to be everything through investment or time and energy. And when you build that team, as you're talking about, or delegating it out, it makes life simpler. Because if you are not doing good, then your business is not going to do good either.
Yes, that is so true. I've seen so many women entrepreneur, and that's my passion, is to, help them see that if they just step back and delegate a little bit out and take care of themselves, that their business can thrive without them.
So as you were growing your business, some of the things that women face more so than the other gender is that fear of unknown, overthinking, imposter syndrome. So did you experience any of that? And if you did, how did you overcome them to achieve your fear?
So,
and overcoming your fear and achieve your goals.
Yes, actually, for sure. In this new venture of being a coach, as I've been a coach in my whole career, I've had hundreds of employees. So I've actually paid to coach, because I paid my employees and then I coached them. But the moment I took the role of being a coach, I started to overthink, and the imposter syndrome came up, and the overthinking and overanalyzing. And I basically for 9 months overthink and did all of the, allowed the fear to overtake me. I allowed the imposter syndrome to say, no, I can't do it myself, but I can help other people do it. And, you know, I allowed the fear and to stop me. And then one day I made a decision, and I chose to be confident and to believe in myself. And it was from all the knowledge that I had put into myself and invested in myself. And I suddenly felt compelled to help other people. And suddenly the money didn't matter. The titles didn't matter. It just was so clear, my path, and I didn't know how it was going to happen. I completely surrendered. And that was the most magical thing, was to become detached and to be completely surrendered to how it was going to manifest, and to just allow it to. And within 9 days, I had my first 100K client, which was absolutely miraculous.
Well, what I'm hearing is that you created the space, because when you let go of something, you create space for new possibilities, new potentials to unfold. I want to revisit what you shared, that there was this one day you decided that this was it. So was there anything specific that happened? What brought you to that decision?
Actually, I was at a picnic with a lot of friends, and I heard a lot of the concerns that my friends were sharing. And I just knew that it just clicked to me in less than 24 hours after that day. I realized that, hey, I can help. I can help people. It doesn't matter what the titles, and like I'm saying, is I just said, oh my gosh, I can do it. And then once I realized I could do it, everything else just fell away. All the reasons and the overthinking and the everything else, I was just clear. So yeah, that day was very magical.
So it sounds like you saw yourself, because so many times what happens is, you know, as coaches, so a lot of my clients will say, oh, how do you know that I can do it? So I tell them that if I don't see that within you, I would not be working with you. And then the next step is that, yes, you see it through my eyes, but then the last step is that you see yourself through your eyes, which what you're describing is that you saw yourself, you saw your potential, and you're like, bam, just that moment, everything clicked. And that is so powerful and so inspiring, because it tells us that when you let go of things, you don't know what the outcome is going to be, and yet just kind of coming into your own. So you also mentioned about your children. So tell us a little bit about that personal journey.
Of my children?
Yeah, like when did you get married, and how are you doing as a mompreneur?
So actually, I'm currently a solo mompreneur, and that was a very big journey at the end of last year. Well, I was in the hospital in March, and the first thing I thought of was my daughters. Okay, if something happens to me, you know, how am I going to be there and, you know, raise my daughters and be there for my daughters? And at the time, my partner and I were on very different paths, and I had done a lot of the blaming and the, you know, putting things on him. And I stopped all of that. I started just fully taking responsibility, and I got a coach, and I started working on myself. And then by November, so close to Thanksgiving time, we had a beautiful conversation, and now we are happily co-parenting. And it was because of all the work that I did on myself, and not putting any of the pressure or any of the blame on him. And one day I'll write a book, Happily Ever After Co-Parenting, because it is.
And that's beautiful, because like, see, think about it. Like, you know, we have this one version of Happily Ever After, it is also important to know that there are multiple different versions of happily ever after. So tell us what brought you to the hospital where you were thinking.
So it was the night after the day before was my daughter's 4th birthday. So I was doing all the things to, have a big birthday party. I neglected myself, so I didn't drink so much water. I was just go, 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 go. And I now looking back, a big part of that was proving to others, okay, I can do this. I can do everything. And the next morning I woke up and face planted and was in the hospital for 4 days. And so now my mantra is to myself that I say, and I encourage every woman to take it on, is from Lisa Nichols, is I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to protect. I have nothing to hide, and I have nothing to defend. So I got really clear that, what other people, instead of trying to prove to them, I'm just here to serve and to be myself. And the less I worry about how I'm impacting or, if I'm trying to prove myself, it all depends on where it's coming from. If I'm trying to inspire people, then, all I need to do is serve. But if I'm coming from a place of, oh, I need to prove that I've got this, or that I can do this as a mom, as a solo mom, as a, business entrepreneur, if I'm coming from that place, then it's just chaos and it's not serving anyone.
And thank you for sharing your personal story, because what happens is when we share our vulnerabilities, other people connect with it. And we all have those days. We all have those moments in lives. It's the way I look at it is it's every single day. We fall and we rise. The whole thing is knowing that we are human beings and we are perfectly imperfect. And it's perfectly okay to be imperfect. It's not about the failure and falling down. It's about how many times you rise and continue and not giving up. So tell us more about, you were mentioning, happy parenting. That is awesome. You brought that harmony back into your life because that impacts children too. So how are your daughters doing? And how are you teaching them some entrepreneurship?
They're right now a little young. My youngest is 2.5, and my is 5. And it's never too young. So I actually, I do want to teach the skills that are necessary for being an entrepreneur. So my older daughter wants to sing on stage, and I want to encourage that, because speaking is such a powerful tool and skill to have. That's how we can inspire others, whether it's through singing or talking or doing courses or teaching or whatever role you play in life. So my goal is to really teach them those skills that are not maybe in schools these days. And those skills can be applied in whichever way they decide to go in life. And I'm going to 100% support them, in finding their deep purpose and teaching them by example, by showing them that that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. You are their role model, because as you mentioned, not only you're bringing that harmony in your personal life, finding that work-life harmony along with living entrepreneurship. So tell us about your journey as you made this decision. Yep, I can help other women, to landing your first 100K client.
So it was a very, very intense journey, because I got the system in place about 9 months ago, and then my father passed away. So kind of my world crumbled.
So sorry to hear about that. Sorry for your loss.
Thank you. And I actually met a new person from him as he was passing away. I was reading all of his scripts that he'd written. He was an amazing scriptwriter. I mean, he could quote Shakespeare and just make everyone like put their jaws to the floor, because he was obviously very elderly and he would still move people with his words. And so I gained a whole nother side of him. I really feel like I gained more after he is gone. Now I have more than when he was here, because I didn't even have all of his, and now I have songs from him and things that
Oh, wow.
we had him, so we never listened to his thing. So that was a very, very delicate time in my life of just putting those pieces back. And then right after that, my relationship was ending and I needed to move out on my own. So I actually took a teaching job. I took a teaching job because that was the only way to get my two kids into daycare. And I felt, okay, I can serve here. I always loved teaching. I've taught here and there as a teacher, art, or I've taught online before to children. And so I started working 40 hours a week in a daycare, and I learned so much from having those toddlers. Oh my goodness, that was, if I didn't have that piece, I feel like all of the other pieces wouldn't have lined up. I had the system of how to get a 100K client. And then by working in this daycare, I learned just unconditional love. And also the other side is brute honesty. The toddlers have nothing to hide. They live my mantra every day: nothing to hide, nothing to prove. They are who they are. And so I learned so much, and I went into that job with that mindset that, hey, I have something to learn even from 2-year-olds. And of course I learned from my daughters every day, but having 17 2-year-olds was a whole nother world. So
well, I'll say that children are the biggest teachers that you can have.
Absolutely. So I learned so much from them. And, so I continued to work on that, full time, and my energy was, it was a lot. And so I was building up my focus on my career on the side. And then I knew when I was ready, I had learned all the lessons that I had needed to learn. And then I just dove in, and I had some people around me that were not encouraging at all. And that was really hard. It was really hard for me when people that I felt I could open up and share this excitement with were fearful for me. And that fear came across as, judging me for taking this leap and saying, kind of making me feel like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? That's a crazy thing to quit your full-time job and go into being an entrepreneur. And actually, that's when I wrote down how many businesses I had had and how many successes I'd had. And really, I only had one failure, which I think all the mistakes and failures that you learn as an entrepreneur is gold. That's really how you succeed. And so I realized that even when you are doing something, taking those steps and taking those big risks as an entrepreneur, sometimes the people around you aren't able to see the same vision, and they're not able to support you as we would hope or like. And still, I was able to understand that it was coming from a place of care and concern. And so I took those steps, and, now I have the success, and I am able to share that in a very beautiful way and very humble way with them.
That's very Beautiful, laced with humility. So tell us a little bit about your system and tell us, how did you get the 100K client? Because I'm sure the entrepreneurs in our audience are just hanging on to their seats, wanting to know and how they could get their first 100K client and what were the learnings along the way.
So again, kind of what I've been saying, the biggest lesson I would say to getting a 100K client is, again, within ourselves. It's to simplify all the things that we're doing and to focus on our goal. If our goal is to have a 100K client, then what else are we doing throughout our day and how is that serving our goal? And, you know, again, back to the foundations of just building up within ourselves. I would say that the two things that served me in that way was having a system that I learned. It was, now I've put it together in a workshop, because going through my experience, I did add a lot of overthinking. And so I have tweaked and come up with my own version of the workshop. But really the key elements are to simplify your life, to raise your consciousness. So to look at all the things that you're eating, because we are who we eat, to look at all the things that we are consuming on a daily basis. Are we consuming social media? Are we consuming, you know, skills that are going to help us towards our goal? So the number one thing I would say to getting your 100K client is making that clear decision and going all in. If you are completely clear and surrendered to everything else, and again, you know, the how, we want to focus on, how do you get the client? How do you get that client? And that is the wrong question we should be asking. It's, who do you need to be to serve the client at that level? And that is the question that you need to go deep within yourself and see, what is my service? What is my purpose? How can I bring that to my client? And that's what I got really, really clear on, was who I am and how I can be of service. And as soon as I was able to see that, nothing would stop me. Now I knew, hey, even if, you know, when I found my client, it was just like that spark was there and both of us just got it. And now we're just so grateful for each other, because we are bringing so much positivity, and I'm learning from her, even though I'm her coach, but she, you know, she thanks me every day and I thank her, because we are building something amazing together. I'm able to support and serve her in her business and her journey and her life. And, you know, she gave me that first yes, which is always the hardest, to get one person to believe in you. And especially on this level, because it is easy to stay in the imposter syndrome and say, oh my gosh, do I have enough to provide this much of value? And
no, you hit a very key point there. It's about who you need to become to serve your client, because when you see your value, automatically you'll be able to provide that value to others, and then the rest happens on its own. So tell us, where can our audience connect with you? Where can they find you?
I'm actually barely on social media, but LinkedIn is the best place to reach me. Okay. Then I'm happy to connect and have a conversation, you know, on my calendar with anyone and just see where they are. And my favorite thing is to connect with women. So I'm very open to chatting and to connecting with them and just seeing where they are.
Well, thank you so much, Rose. Do you have any last tips or any last Wisdom words that you want to share with our audience?
I would say believe in yourself, and kind of like the just do it Nike slogan. Instead just be it. Be the person that you want to coach, just as you know, your ideal client is most likely you 20 years ago. That person that you were, that you've overcome all those obstacles. Look and see who is struggling with the problems that you had, and just go help them. And that's the best way to start, is to just helping and serving without any agenda, and just seeing what your purpose and in this life is.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for joining us and sharing your story. Thank you, listeners, for joining us, because without you, the show would not be possible. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can support you. And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible. Be well, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.